In 1847, records from Greene County, Georgia described the routine operation of a mid-sized cotton plantation located several miles from the nearest town center. The property appeared repeatedly in tax documents, church registries, and agricultural reports. It employed overseers, recorded yields, and hosted scheduled inspections. Nothing in these documents suggested instability or disorder. What appears instead is consistency. The same names recur in ledgers. The same acreage is measured each year. The same household structure is noted in census margins. According to county clerks, the plantation was considered well managed. According to local ministers, it was orderly. According to physicians who passed through, no abnormalities were recorded. Yet beginning in late summer of that year, a sequence of internal notes appears in unrelated files, annotations that do not explain themselves. These notes do not accuse anyone of wrongdoing. They do not describe violence. They do not suggest criminal intent. They simply document outcomes. That should not have been possible under the conditions described, and they stop short of explanation. No formal investigation was opened at the time. No charges were filed. The plantation continued operating. What happened there was not hidden. It was processed, and the records never agree on why. Before continuing, this channel documents historical cases and institutional failures using available records, secondary accounts, and administrative fragments. If you follow this work, you are participating in the examination of systems that were once considered functional. The plantation's daily operations followed a predictable schedule. Labor assignments were issued before dawn. Meals were distributed at fixed hours. Nighttime movement was restricted. All of this was noted as compliant with prevailing standards of the period. Household management fell under the authority of the plantation owner's family. Domestic matters were separated from field labor. This division was considered normal and efficient. No external oversight was applied to internal household decisions. Beginning in September, small changes were recorded. Supply inventories began showing discrepancies that were marked as clerical errors. Medical visits increased slightly but without diagnosis. A visiting preacher noted unusual discipline during a routine sermon entry, then did not elaborate. Each instance was documented, acknowledged, and dismissed. There was no singular incident that prompted concern. There was no immediate disruption. Instead, there was a pattern of minor deviations that remained individually explainable. Collectively, they were not addressed. By October, correspondence between the plantation owner and a regional supplier references adjustments. Within the household structure, the phrase appears twice. It is not defined. It is not questioned. It does not appear elsewhere in county records. At the time, this language did not trigger review. It fit within accepted norms of private authority. What those adjustments involved was not recorded directly, but the consequences were. The household itself consisted of the plantation owner, his wife, 2 children, and several domestic servants assigned to interior duties. These assignments were listed separately from field labor and were not subject to the same oversight. Decisions regarding domestic organization were considered private and discretionary. Meals inside the main house were served at fixed times. Written schedules indicate no deviation from standard practice. Sleeping arrangements were noted only in terms of space allocation, not occupancy. This was typical. The interior of the house was not inspected by county officials unless a formal complaint was filed. No complaints were filed. What does appear are medical visit logs. A physician from a neighboring county made 3 visits between September and November. His notes are brief. He records fatigue, weight fluctuation, and stress-related symptoms. He attributes these to seasonal labor demands and does not recommend intervention. On his final visit, he notes that he was not permitted to examine all household members. He records this as a preference of the family. No objection is made. Around the same time, the plantation's overseer submitted a weekly report, noting that certain individuals were reassigned without explanation. The report does not list names. It only notes that instructions came directly from the household and were not to be questioned. This was consistent with hierarchy. Church attendance. Records show that the owner's wife ceased appearing at services for several weeks. When attendance resumed, no explanation was offered. The minister noted her presence as observed and did not comment further. In October, a delivery ledger includes a marginal note regarding increased food provisions allocated to the main house. The quantities exceeded typical household consumption. The supplier marked it as approved. No inquiry followed. Each of these details existed independently. None of them violated regulations. Each was processed according to procedure. By mid-November, the first explicit anomaly appears. A probate clerk reviewing estate documents unrelated to the plantation noted a discrepancy in household dependency counts. The numbers did not align with census data submitted earlier that year. The clerk corrected the figure without escalation. The correction was filed. The discrepancy remained unexamined. Internal correspondence from the plantation owner during this period becomes increasingly precise. References to arrangements, assignments, and compliance appear with greater frequency. These terms are not unusual in agricultural management. What is unusual is their application to domestic matters. No one challenged this language. By December, the pattern had established itself. Minor deviations, administrative acceptance, no intervention. Nothing occurred that would later be described as a breaking point. What followed did not arrive suddenly. It unfolded within existing systems, using approved authority and under routine documentation. The records do not indicate surprise. They indicate acknowledgement. The midpoint shift appears in December of 1847, not through an event but through language. A letter filed in county archives references a resolved household. Matter. The phrase is neutral. It carries no emotional weight. It is written as confirmation, not explanation. The matter is not described. The resolution is not detailed. The letter is signed and archived without comment. From this point forward, records stop treating irregularities as errors. They are treated as outcomes. A revised household ledger lists new internal roles. These roles are not occupational. They are relational. The entries are written in the same hand as prior inventory logs. No distinction is made between labor classifications and domestic assignments. This change is not flagged. A visiting magistrate conducted a routine property review in January of 1848. His report notes that the plantation was orderly and without disturbance. He records no violations. He does not enter the main residence. This was not required. What he does record is compliance. Later that month, the overseer submits a brief addendum to his weekly report. It states that certain instructions were to be followed, without external disclosure. The phrase is underlined once. The addendum is accepted. There is no indication that this raised concern. Medical records from this period are sparse. One notation refers to a domestic servant treated for exhaustion. The physician again notes limited access. Again, he does not object. At this stage, the system is aware. Not aware of harm, aware of structure. The plantation owner's authority over both labor and household was legally recognized. There was no procedural mechanism to question internal arrangements unless they resulted in public disruption or formal complaint. Neither occurred. What becomes apparent through correspondence is intent. Decisions are no longer framed as responses. They are framed as determinations. Terms like permitted, assigned, and approved appear in relation to matters that were previously undocumented. This shift is subtle. It is not dramatic. It is bureaucratic. By February, the pattern stabilizes. No further discrepancies are corrected. No annotations question internal decisions. The household continues to function. There is no recorded resistance. What the records suggest is not concealment but normalization. When the final document of this sequence is filed, it is a routine tax assessment. It notes no changes in productivity, no disruptions, no losses. The system records success. What it does not record is the cost of the arrangement it now recognizes as complete.